thank you all very much for giving up this beautiful afternoon to come here and meet and listen to the superintendent and the candidates for the school committee. To curb a terrible habit of mine to ramble, I'm going to read my remarks, so please forgive me for that. But I first of all want to thank Principal Hartunian, who wasn't able to make it, for graciously offering us this auditorium. And in particular, I want to thank two of his staff members, Alex Hernandez Contreras and Josh Lopes, who I'm sure the school wouldn't survive without. They're the ones that made today possible, and I thank them for being here. I also want to thank Eugene Fogelman and Jen Adams, who from New TV, for agreeing to come and record the superintendent's statements so that we can make them available to a broader audience in the future. There are 3 people here. I think it's 3, I hope that's 4. 1 school committee member, if you'd like to stand up. And say hello, Ian Lou, and a candidate for the school committee. Thank you for being here early, Linda Swain, thank you. And I see behind us him, I want to acknowledge Jacob Silver, who will soon be one of your Ward 8.
Steve, I can't hear you.
Sorry, Jacob Silver, who will soon be one of your Ward 8 at-large city councilors. David Kalis, our other Ward 8 at-large city councilor, his apologies for not being here. He's in Carolina with his family. So, thank you all for being here. For the past 2 years, I've greatly enjoyed working as your Ward 8 city councilor. And without a challenge this year, I look forward to continuing to work for Ward 8 over the next 2 years. Public education in America, while very good in some places, is often not the caliber we want for our kids. I'm confident in saying that we in Newton are extremely fortunate that 2 years ago the school committee hired Dr. Anna Nolin to be our superintendent. Her education, her experience, her passion, and her vision for what Newton schools could be, along with, and importantly, her demonstrated commitment to listen to and work cooperatively with Newton's 2,000 dedicated teachers and administrators, that should give us all hope for Newton's return to the elite ranks. It's imperative, however, that we have a school committee that shares her vision and can give the superintendent the guidance and support necessary to make that vision come to fruition. We will hear today from those candidates who wish to join her in that effort. Almost done. Still anxious. There we go. I'll learn to do better. Sorry. Finally, having a vibrant school committee is only part of what Superintendent Nolin needs. She needs each and every one of us, residents, parents, taxpayers, voters, to understand her vision clearly and for us to stay engaged to ensure that the school committee and the mayor give her the support and resources necessary to achieve success. So thank you for coming to listen and learn today. And thank you, Dr. Nolin, for taking the time for leading our schools and working with your terrific faculty to make Newton schools the best that they can be.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, Stephen. I feel very supported by you since the minute we met. So thank you for this opportunity. And thank you, everyone. I know that you could spend your Sunday in a million other ways. So thank you for being here. And I hope you tell your friends so they come to our next one. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. So first, by way of introduction, I just want to say to you that I have been an educator in Metro West for over 30 years. And I, before that, taught in New York City public schools and Malden public schools before coming to Framingham as a theater and English teacher in the middle schools. And I would say to you that whether I was serving as on my high school hockey team, as captain of the field hockey team, or one of 9 sisters, or as 7th grade English teacher on a teaching team, team is in my blood. And that is actually the subject of my doctoral research, and it is what I teach at Boston College in the Educational Leadership Program, how to create high-functioning teams. So the first message for Newton is, if we're going to thrive, it's a city thriving team. It's not just the schools, it's not just fire or police or DPW. And I have been used to, in the last 20 years, in my former work in the Natick Public Schools, in having that kind of sisterhood and brotherhood with our other municipal departments so that we can create a thriving city plan for the future. So I am very much looking forward to getting to know our new mayor candidate, whoever that is, and my new bosses on the school committee. As you can imagine, it's a weird thing to have to, for over a year, watch the public interviews of your future bosses. But to that end, just know that I will leave at the end of my remarks. It is not appropriate for me to be involved with the school committee election in any way, so I will leave. It is not because I am not interested. I'm reading every word about it, but I cannot be associated with any portion of the election or anything, putting my thumb anywhere on it, because I won't. I will work with whatever committee comes to us, and they will be the best committee for the Newton Public Schools because you chose them. So I do want to say to you, though, that we are at a crucible moment for the Newton Public Schools, my assessment, and that crucible is about trust and whether the community has confidence in our public schools to send their children there and to feel that they will thrive there. Collaboration, are we going to be able to come together in terms of collaborative services across the city? Will people have confidence here and believe that continuing to have a home here means that you have the best services possible and that your home values will grow? And finally, I want this city and our schools to be a place where private investors want to continue to work with us in public-private partnerships to enhance and accelerate the work of the Newton Public Schools. It's a very important time, and I suspect that if we align our resources and gain the trust of the public back in a way, we will be an exemplar for the nation. Newton is full of very smart, educated people, but also a diversity of socioeconomic statuses, language, culture, and understandings. If we know how to do this well, we are teaching the nation how to lead their schools in the future. FYI, we are one of the largest employers in the city of Newton. We are definitely the largest food service and transportation and mental health service provider. We also provide academic programming, athletics, and arts programming. We are a big business in the city. Just a little bit about how I approach public education. Public education is a social contract with our community. It is a pledge that we make to families and kids that you can get what you need when you need it in this school system. I am a product of public schools. I am one of 9 kids. There is no way my parents were sending us to private schools. And one teacher took an interest in me and pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. And I thought there was no higher calling than to be exactly like Bob Corrigan, high school English teacher. And little did I know, I could not just sit there and be that English teacher, because there was somebody had to be the tip of the spear for public schools, and that is me. And now you're stuck with me. But I do see that public education as a contract. So, and that means we have to be deeply transparent about what we're doing in the schools, and we need to come to you with information all the time. Public schools changes lives, public schools breaks isolation of families, and public schools are the heart of a city and a thriving community. And so that's how I approach this work, and that is how I try to envision our work together. So what does thriving mean? We changed our logo recently from Newton Public Schools, Equity and Excellence, to a place where every student can thrive. There was a lot of conflict about whether we could have equity and excellence together. What we want is thriving children. And what that means is that we're going to have to make a heavier investment in Newton Public Schools right now to address the over 15 years of neglect in basic services in schools: buildings, curriculum, assessment, and intervention. And our story is that we have lost the trust in some ways of our families, so they request services and supports in a way that shows us that lack of trust. Our special education requests for evaluations and for requests for one-to-one aids is higher than I've seen anywhere in Metro West or New England. Why? Because there isn't the trust in the Tier 1 curriculum, basic general curriculum in the gen ed classroom. And when that happens, parents are desperate. They want their children to succeed, and if the only tool we have is special education, and not differentiated experiences, pathways, and levels within schools on a daily basis, we are going to continue to pit special education against general education, and that is what is happening in the city. Thriving means that we have student supports and we have advanced learner experiences. It means that we are leading the way in the Commonwealth, not catching up with other school systems, and that we have options for students that have been added to other cities and towns across Metro West in particular and in the Commonwealth. And I want to be really clear. That doesn't mean we don't have excellent teachers. Those teachers have been doing 10 times the amount of work that they should be doing, and they've been doing administrator work that they shouldn't have had to do. And so there is this very heavy burden on teachers who have been the excellence of this school system, and they need our support. That said, we also need to create alignment and trust across the community so you know exactly what we're doing with each tax dollar. But I need reliable, stable funding in order to build those improvements and to settle contracts, not either or, and not to pit paying teachers a good wage with program improvements. We should be able to do both and to balance that across the years. I don't want to pit salary expenses against programs and services. Newton Public Schools teachers are some of the most experienced in the Commonwealth. 49% of our staff have been here over 25 years. That is different from the rest of Metro West. By the way, I serve as the Tri-County Superintendent President, Norfolk, Worcester, and Middlesex County. And for the last 3 years, I was also the New England Supes President. So I have a good penetration into sort of what's the landscape. So the city has valued teacher longevity over time, and it's worked. Our teachers have stayed. But what that means is that the salaries are what the salaries are until the next generation of teachers comes up. When I started teaching 35 years ago, there weren't teachers who were 40 and 50 years old because Proposition 2.5 laid off all that entire generation of teachers. And so this is the first time that in the Commonwealth that we have aged staff through to the 50s and 60s of their age bracket. And so that is just a challenge we have. The teachers are strong and they have been doing extra work, and we should balance that with additional services for them. Over the last 2 years, we've undertaken a stakeholder engagement process where 150 different individuals from business, leadership, the teachers union, parents, kids, Chamber of Commerce, all showed up to create our next set of mission statement, vision statement, core values, and a long-range strategic plan called the Thrive 2030 plan. It will take the system through to 2030, and it's all here, and you're going to get this PowerPoint from Stephen afterwards, so you can look at it in detail. So there's no secrets what we're up to over here. It's 5 years. It tells you exactly what we're going to be working on for the next 5 years and what I'll be asking to be funded throughout the school system. It's linked right here. What are the major areas that the community told us they were concerned about? Student learning and well-being, a balance between rigorous academics, but also caring services and mental health services for the large number of students who are in need of those services now. Investment in finances and facilities. So the mayor has done a wonderful job of accelerating the building project scenarios, but we have a lot of buildings with a lot of needs, and we need a plan for taking care of those on a regular basis, not in spurts every once in a while, so that taxpayers like you are not unduly burdened with aggressive spurts of building changes. Community engagement. During my first year here as a superintendent, we were in a very difficult contract negotiation, and there was work to rule activity. I really couldn't speak to teachers for the first year. Now we are talking all the time, but in that first year I had to focus on students and families, and what students and families told me was they felt kept at an arm's length from understanding what was happening in the schools. And that's never a good place for us to be, because you are children's first teachers, and we need to work with you in order to understand how you understand what the services are we're providing. So two-way partnership and communications, building a strong alumni network, and ensuring that we stay connected and informed and invested in Newton Public Schools as a community. And then finally, a human resources focus on employing those highly skilled workers, being an attractive place to work to attract the folks who will come in when our our folks retire who have been here over 25 years. We want it to be a destination place to work, and we are doing all that we need to in order to attract those people into our workforce now, which includes pipeline educator training programs, graduate programs that are grant funded, and partnerships. For example, we just created a partnership with Boston College where we've become a federal work study site for Boston College so that students can work off their loans and their debts by working for us in a variety of places. That's never been the case before. We have had partnerships with student teachers in Boston College. We also have that with LaSalle University and Mount Ida as well. So the good news about having a new leader in an organization is fresh eyes take a look at the old budget. And so I want you to know that we have reorganized and created efficiencies over the last 2 years before we even come to the budget table. And what have we tried to focus on? Early reading and math intervention and a strong general ed curriculum. So very much getting back to basics in some ways. But that meant that we had to reschedule and modernize elementary school schedules so that we could more efficiently and effectively schedule. So we are now able to do more support and intervention for less money than we were doing for the last 5 years. We reduced administrative costs at the central office by $2.2 million. We cleaned up duplicative spending. We did raise fees to families and vendors, and we obtained grants. 3 years, $3 million for this year so far. I'm just getting started. And other federal grants, et cetera, of course, are too volatile to count on, but we do receive those entitlement grants. I'm talking about grants from private vendors and from private individuals to assist with our change efforts. Certified staff, we had about 350 uncertified staff when I arrived here. I'm happy to report to you that those staff issues have been remediated in the last 2 years. And we have begun to reduce special education aides and out-of-district special education placements in schools outside of Newton because we are able to strengthen our internal programming despite rising complexity in terms of student need. If you've heard me speak before, you can understand that when I say the words Mass Tiered System of Support, MTSS, what I'm talking about is intervention services for students in math and English language arts. And what you're seeing here are evaluations for special ed services in 23-24 and then in 24-25, so blue and orange. So when parents feel more confident in what they're hearing from us and what they're seeing in terms of student progress, there's less of an impetus to ask for testing that they may or may not need. Special education testing, if you need it, you should get it, but it's a very costly process, both in time and money, and it may result in services that could be remediated by just plain old good general education services. Over here, I just want you to know that we are tracking very carefully our student literacy achievement at our elementary schools. What you're seeing here is we were only able to invest in this MTSS program in 5 schools last year because the way the budget shook out. So we chose our 5 neediest elementary schools, needy defined by high-need students who had the lowest scores across the system in math and ELA. And I'm happy to report to you that 71% of the students receiving those interventions achieved above average growth on our math and English language arts skill benchmarking. That's in 1 year. Imagine what we could do with 2 years of stability and scale it across the entire 15 elementary schools that we serve. The Ainger School was recently designated as a National Blue Ribbon School. And I can say to you that the principal there, Orla Higgins, has long been an expert of MTSS, but she was an island unto herself, no system around her. She was just making arrangements within Ainger, and it worked. So if we're looking at special education aides, that's the blue bar, and the students with disabilities is the red line. You can see that the Ainger School, through excellent support services in general education, has consistently reduced the financial burden on Newton taxpayers by creating a better support system. We are looking to scale what Orla and her team at Ainger has done across the school system. Every child deserves that. Should not be the side of town or the elementary school that you happen to roll into that determines whether or not you can get this level of service. This is just those numbers that I told you about of reducing special education aides from 2016 to 24-25. That's a significant reduction in staffing costs. Better yet, she was able to show growth of 169% for each child who was below grade level. We would expect in a typical year 100% growth. That's a year's worth of growth. So at Ainger, when you're in these intervention groups, you're getting more than double the amount of progress. Every kid in Newton deserves that. In addition, over the last 10 years, the system has done extraordinary programming in special ed. I've never seen more special ed programming in a system and done at a high quality level. But what that means is that there's more staff that has to go to in-district special ed programs than in other places in Metro West. Districts tuition students out to places like the New England Children's Center for Autism or other types of residential and day programming. Newton mostly keeps its students here. We do pay about $16 million this year in out-of-district tuitions. Imagine if we didn't have the full range of programs that we have now. Over time, we've been able to return students from out-of-district placements. So since 2019, we've been able to attract back from those placements 40 individual students who, if they're out usually till their senior year. So that's just an indication of how strong the programming is for those students. And this fun graph tells you how the state funding to help us pay for those out-of-district tuitions has gone down. That is the yellow line right there. That's how much funding we get back from the state. The state has not held up its end of the bargain by fully reimbursing what's called circuit breaker, which is the special ed mechanism for us getting money back after we spend dollars on out-of-district tuition. So you can see that we are reducing the number of students who are outplaced, the amount of money is not keeping pace, and yet we still have to pay for those out-of-district placements. I do want to give you a super bright spot in our community. Welcome. Our career technical school over at the North High School is a third high school that is often not known about within the city. I just show you here that there's other vocational career technical high schools across the state, but we do exactly what they do for a fraction of the cost. So Minuteman, Shawshing, and Norfolk Agricultural High School, you can see that the cost of running these schools is quite high in 23 and 24, and we educate 900 vocational students at Newton North High School for $1.8 million a year. Now, the school is snuggled within another infrastructure, but I just need you to know that that is very, very expensive services to provide those shops and those internship placements. And we are actually looking to expand the programs that we're going to offer here. So when Stephen asked me to talk about the vision for the future, students are hungry to be certified to go right into the world of work right after they get out of high school, while they pursue other post-graduation activities. We're seeing a lot more kids taking gap years. That COVID generation of kids is, let's just say, they need a little bit more baking before they go out into the world. I'll say my own son, who's 23, is in that boat too. He feels a little bit like 18 to me, even though he's 23. So we are looking to expand by 3 shops: dental assisting, medical assisting, and information systems technology. So you'll hear me talking about that through the budget season this year as well. It's not an accident that we have been meeting with business and industry leaders to see what are the skills you want the Newton Public Schools children to graduate with. Top skills in this is the Future of Jobs report, tells us that analytical thinking, active learning, complex problem solving, these are what employers are after, not necessarily content knowledge. So with that in mind, we undertook another process of having about 100 community members come together, and we studied the job market. We looked at trends across the United States and the world for jobs, and these are the Portrait of a Learner competencies that were chosen by the community. Now, that doesn't mean this is all we do. We still do math and English and social studies and all those things, but all on the way to how do we fulfill the citizens' promise that the next generation of students have what it takes to lead us, to work for us, and to be the citizens that you are now, trying to be engaged in making the world a better place. So I've made a little video for you here just so that in very few minutes I can explain to you the difference between Newton schools in 1994 and 2025. Because I'll just give you one example of a funny interaction I had I was at Whole Foods getting lunch one day, and this gentleman said to me, "I hear you have athletic trainers on staff." And I said, "That's right." And he said, "Are you kidding me? Is that where my tax dollars is going?" I said, "Well, tell me what you think it is." And he said, Are you giving them like boutique gym classes so that they can be bodybuilders and things like that?" And I said, "It's not fitness training." I said, "The Mass Interscholastic Association of Athletics makes us have a trainer for safety reasons, concussions, broken bones." He was like, "Oh, that's one state mandate I just told you about that had one taxpayer very angry with our waste and fraud, which we are required to have it by the state of Massachusetts." So I tried to create a picture of all those things so you could hear about them here. Let me know if the volume is too much.
Public schools have always been a cornerstone of American society. Over the past 2 decades, Newton's schools have transformed remarkably. These changes reflect the evolving needs of our students and community. Today's classrooms have expanded dramatically in scope and responsibility. Our schools adapt to meet the diverse needs of all students. Today's students face pressures and complexities we could hardly have imagined decades ago. The rise of social media, climate change, and economic uncertainties weigh heavily on young minds. Schools now serve diverse learning styles, cultural backgrounds, and socio-economic situations. This diversity enriches the learning environment, but demands more resources and support. Modern schools have become much more than places of academic instruction. They have evolved into essential community hubs, providing a safety net for students and families facing a range of challenges. All schools now offer free breakfast and lunch programs to ensure that all students have access to nutritious meals. Recognizing the growing need for mental health support, all schools have integrated counselors and social workers on our staff. Schools are on the front lines of addressing the mental health crisis affecting our youth and are the crucible where family values and philosophies often create community conflicts, which also affect the student learning environment. One of the most significant changes in public education is the commitment to inclusion. Federal law mandates that all students receive a free and appropriate public education, including students who, decades ago, would not have attended public school. Schools have new mandated roles such as special education staff, behavior analysts and technicians, and assistive technology and medical experts. This inclusive approach ensures all students can learn and grow in a supportive environment. Newton does not outsource its students to private placements wherever possible. We serve our children in their neighborhood schools. A new generation, a new standard. Newton's student population is vastly different from previous generations. We represent a rich tapestry of cultures, languages, and backgrounds. This diversity is a strength, but presents unique challenges. Parents and the community have higher expectations. Education is key to success in a global economy. Schools must equip students with critical thinking, problem solving, and digital literacy, preparing students for a lifetime of learning and adaptation. Preparing for the future. Career and vocational programs. Recognizing that not all students are college-bound, schools have expanded their offerings to include robust career and vocational programs. These programs provide students with practical skills and industry certifications, preparing them for success in a variety of trades and technical fields. High schools now offer courses in automotive technology, radio and TV broadcasting, early child education and care, culinary arts, drafting, carpentry, and business. With the cost of college increasing 37% in the past decade, these technical programs are essential for addressing the growing skills gap and ensuring that our local economy has a pipeline of qualified workers. Investing in our future, understanding school expenses. The increased scope of services and support provided by schools naturally comes with a price tag, and we want all residents to know how we are investing funds. School expenses have risen in recent decades, driven by factors such as special education mandates, rising busing and other contractual personnel costs, energy costs, and the need for updated technology and facilities. It's important to remember that investing in education is an investment in our community's future. Well-supported schools attract and retain quality teachers, provide students with the resources they need to succeed, and contribute to a thriving local economy. Our Thrive promise to our students. Supporting Newton schools. The evolution of Newton's public schools reflects our community's commitment to providing all students with the best possible education. We wanted to thank you for your support. Our schools are tasked with a monumental responsibility, preparing young people for a future filled with both promise and uncertainty. By working together, we can ensure that our schools have the resources and support they need to continue their vital work. The future of our community depends on the success of our schools, and their success depends on all of us.
So just a couple more things, and then I'm happy to open it to questions. I just need you to know that that complexity, along with 15 years of needing strategic investments in the system and not being able to do that, our last year's capture of mid-year of grade 3 students and their reading levels is that 40% were not at or above grade level. Now that was shocking for me to hear. I've been next door in Natick for 20 years. That is an unacceptable piece of data for us to have here. So now, funny enough, hold on to your hats, 75% of kids are at or above grade level in math. So I've been poking at that, and if there are parents in the audience here, I can tell you that the number one thing everyone wants is a new math program in the school system, and it's happening, so know that. We just presented the launch of it recently. But when I'm poking around asking, well, why is this so high, the achievement in math, and so low, the achievement in language arts? There's few answers for that, but one, we didn't put a science of reading-based curriculum in until 2 years ago. And it's been hard because Newton teachers are used to creating their own materials, and they've put their blood, sweat, and tears into it. So, and I was a teacher, I know that feeling. But we were excellent by luck, not by leadership. And we cannot allow that to be the case. The teacher you have shouldn't dictate the excellence your child experiences. So that's a shift in thinking. But then parents have outsourced math instruction to cottage industries like Russian math or other tutors. The same cottage industry doesn't necessarily exist for English language arts in the same way. And I've been joking parents like, so what are you doing at dinner, math facts? And they're like, yes. So I'm like, okay, well, how about you guys read together a little bit too? So when Stephen asked me to talk about the future goals, we have to fix this problem with literacy. And we need parents to not feel they have to spend their thousands of bucks on outside services. We should be the place where they feel confident in the services. Our students farther from justice are continuing to decline in performance. Black and Latino students, ELL students, that's English language learner, and students with disabilities have not improved in the last 10 years. And if we're pushing a change agenda, we must serve these students well and get them what they need when they need it. We talked about the trust struggle with families, embracing change. Change management is always difficult. But also we have this sort of society with a culture of division right now, and institutions like schools are not trusted in the same way that they were before. So we don't have any money in the bank to say to parents like, we got this, we're your public schools. So we have to run aggressively towards the things that parents are telling us will restore that confidence. So we'll deal with our old and outdated buildings. We are one of the very few schools in Metro West that does not have early college and certification programs, so students can take college credits within high school. We have growing mental health needs for our students, and the curriculum has not been updated in almost 2 decades, with the exception of elementary math and elementary reading, which has been a recent development. So what I think Newton needs to thrive is funds for these ongoing programs that we want to put into place, funding for full schedules for high school students. Right now, many students are underscheduled within their school day. Expansion of career vo-technical programs. We actually need materials so students can do lab sciences in the robust way that they're expected to do so. Sustainability plans for laptops, projectors, and things like hearing and amplification systems within the school system. After school options for elementary school students, electives for high school students. And we need to be out in front on the first steps towards universal preschool for Newton residents. That is, other districts are going there. I don't want to be late to that game the way that Newton was late to full day kindergarten. We know that remediating those literacy issues before students get to grade 3 exponentially catapults them into a future of difference. So we really want to get to that place. We also need things funded like sports transportation. Right now, we are not fully funding the way that students can get to certain games. And we're also, our school schedule means that we're so late in the day that most of the busing in the region is already employed by people who get out of school earlier than we do. So it's really impacting our capacity to get kids to athletics. If I didn't have a car as a kid, I wouldn't have been able to do high school athletics if the school didn't bus me. So that's a real difficulty for a lot of our kids. And we talked about career tech programs. I should also say to you that advanced and extension opportunities at elementary and middle schools, and things like robotics programming and coding and those types of robust STEM activities are not present in our elementary schools at this time. So we do have a lot of work to do. I feel confident we can do it, but we really are struggling with the budget situation and not having the reliable funds to do that. So as I said before, we want to get out of this, we want to get out of this cycle of that we're in, of like the true costs of running our school system are hidden to families, so they seek outside solutions to problems. You know, we are still post-COVID learning needs. Our 5th graders started kindergarten in COVID. So just think about that group of kids. They're a little different than other generations of kids. There's low confidence in general education, so we're seeking a lot of special ed services. And the funding agreements that are made each year can't be counted on. And this is where I get my fire up, because we need to have a sustainable budget that I can count on. I spent my entire spring, instead of working on teaching and learning, fighting for a budget that was less than the prior year. And I will do that, but that doesn't seem like a great use of time when we could be pushing forward into a better future for the kids. I do want to say, you know, a fair question to ask us is, well, you're 1,000 kids down. How come the budget still goes up? That's a fair question. What I need you to know is those mandates from the state require more staffing. And if we continue to not win the day with families on regular education, special education is just more costly. And so we are in this weird loop that we need to break out of. And just, I think some short-term investments in our budget would get us there, because we're already starting to see, as you saw in the 5 schools that we showcased to you, we're starting to get there. Let's see. I just wanted to share with you that the last 3 years, I've put out a 5 budget scenario for many years, with the green being the Thrive budget, right? If everything that the superintendent said we need, we got, that would be over here. But I remember when I started with the team aspect, I understand that I'm not the only kid in the family here, in the Newton municipal family. So, but it is my job to tell you that that's what we could be. That's my entire job, is to say this is what's the best for Newton kids possible. So the last few years have brought us budgets that are either less than level service, or slightly above level service plus. So just know that the financial forecast coming out next week will continue to have us in this realm. I do want to take an opportunity just to tell you that the allocation from the city is one thing, but we have been expected for the last 6 years to actually stop spending in January, put a budget freeze on the current budget, to pull between between $4 and $5 million in some years. So we're looking at, this is how much I've had to cut the budget within the school year each year in order to make it balance, which effectively means that I've been running the school system on a 2.47% increase, a 2.6. The first year that I got here was 0.59% increase over the previous year. And this year it will be 2.43. So even though I got a budget, I don't really get it. I have to cut it off in January and hope that I can save the money to balance it. Our contracts that sit currently, busing, special ed, out of district, teacher pay, all of those things, it's at 4.25% if we do nothing new. So, spoiler alert, there will be issues again. Now, we're going to have a mayor transition, so I don't know what that's going to look like. But I just have to say to you that this reality does not bring us the programmatic improvements that bring us the trust that our families will have in us. So you're going to hear on Monday's financial forecast that we will receive a 5% increase. That's a 5% increase after $5 million was cut from our budget last year. So that's $5 million, basically doesn't get us back to level. So now it may not turn out that way, because I'm here and I'm the tip of the spear, and it's not going to happen that way. But I just want you to know that's what we're facing again. And so the collective teachers will hear that Monday, and they'll say things to me like, should I be worried about my job? And that's not fulfilling that promise of the great place, the destination premier workplace that I shared with you. So I'm happy to take questions. I know there was at least one question about math, so I'm ready with that anytime anybody wants to ask.
Let me get this over.
Oh, sure. Here you go.
Thanks. Thank you for being here to listen to this extraordinary message. And I think it is one that we need to promote throughout the city. Educating our kids is paramount to our being a successful society. And as you hear from Dr. Nolin, this is a struggle that I think we as city people, residents, taxpayers, and elected officials need to really struggle with what are the things we want for our kids, as well as the superintendent notes, potholes that need to be fixed. But it's going to be costly, and I think we need to get this message out so people understand why. And I'm really pleased that this has been taped so that we can share this part of the message. But we will continue to try to gather people to come and listen to the superintendent. Would anyone have a question that they'd like to ask you?
Hi, Anna.
Hi.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
So my name is Nolin. I have 2 kids in the system. Well, actually, one of them is in private school right now in 6th grade, and the other one is a junior south in the special education program. So my question is, I guess, about the relationship between MTA and you and the school. My concern is that, after the strike, which has been kind of a big shock to the system, and a lot of parents, I think, lost trust in the system, but it's sort of like, I don't view it as necessarily the school's problem. Perhaps some of this coming from MTA, and as of right now, I kind of don't see them trying to dial down the temperature a bit and be more collaborative, and I guess maybe it's more a question for them, but like all of us have to deal with them, right? Mm-hmm. So, what do you see, I guess, from the MTA leadership versus maybe individual teachers? How does that dynamic work and impacts everything?
Well, I definitely cannot speak for anybody in the NTA. Yeah. I was a teacher and a union member, and I've been in a lot of school systems. I think, I just want to say, the distinction you made between perhaps leadership and public statements and what teachers actually think and do, I think that's really important to hold on to, because the average teacher is out there sweating it out for your kid every single day. And it's a hard job, and more is expected of them all the time. A lot of parents set it and forget it and just send the kids and hope we fix it all. And now I know you're not in that boat, so we know each other because she's here all the time. That said, I would say that the NTA leadership, we have a lot of shared interests and a lot of common priorities. Honestly, I do feel the teachers have had to take on more than they should have over time. And so I think it's like the union leadership's job to bring up the things that their union says is difficult. That said, I don't feel I've been given the benefit of the doubt of being able to be the bridge there. So there is a little bit of like difficulty from time to time. There's also really good success from time to time, right? So I'm mixed on all of it myself. I think that in the end, everybody wants kids to be well served. I do think that. And I'm not going to say it's like roses and sunshine all the time. It's not. It's hard. I get very upset sometimes, but I also know that maybe some of the things that I'm pushing also constitute difficulties on their end, and it's good that we're in dialogue so I can hear about it.
I think it was me who had the question.
Yeah.
Our son graduated in 2013. I feel like he had an excellent math education, lots of opportunities for very advanced math. So we're not really in the know anymore. But I feel like what I've heard is that there were some issues with how they changed the math curriculum. So I'm so curious to know what's going on with that.
Yes. So you heard about our great news about our 5th grade students. Like, kids are 2 and 3 grade levels above the regional and national standards. So that's a good problem. But what it means is that our current math program is just not rigorous enough for the average student. Now, the question is, if parents remove the outside resources they're doing, what will we look like? But bottom line is, we need a more rigorous program. We need one that people can count on. So we did the first ever curriculum review. So 25 years ago was the last curriculum review. And what that means is we took the state standards and we lined them up with the teacher from every building. And we said, what do you teach and when do you teach it? And what we found out, I'll just use our 4 middle schools as an example, we might as well have been 4 different districts. So it really did dictate which school you were at, what standards got covered. So like, I'm just gonna say, we say time out right there. Like, we have to, in that social contract that is curriculum, say this is what everybody's gonna cover at this time. And what we found was some of the standards were grade levels below what they should have been. The reason for that, though, when you talk to administrators and thoughtful teachers who have been here the whole time, post-COVID, the scatter between children's capacity was enormous. In any classroom, even a leveled classroom of old, there was scatter. And so, like, triple that scatter. And so I think there was like an attempt to address that by saying, well, let's just get rid of levels because they may be not very meaningful right now, and just teach everybody in this weird moment that we're in. I think it got very convoluted. I think that because there were no common assessments, there was no way to measure what was happening. We couldn't really tell what was happening. We can tell now because we have benchmark assessments about how kids are doing. So for the last 2 years, I've been taking everybody's temperature with these math assessments. So when we make changes now, and we are making them, we know whether it's working or not. So we are going to differentiated math pathways, and you can look at this when you get it from Stephen, because it's hard to see here, but this document will show you a plan, because we have to transition. We're going to go to Algebra 1 for everyone by the end of grade 8. So that right there accelerates everybody by 1 grade level, right there. From there, we need to look at these students who are truly advanced and maybe outliers, and we need to determine who that is. Now in Newton, every parent says that's their kid, so you can see my challenge, right? And we are developing a system where it's data driven, so it's not like the teacher says, oh, you look like an honors math student. Like, we know it with some thresholds. And I have to, because Newton parents will be all over me if I don't have a defensible data driven system, right? But it is going to take a little while. So for example, in these 2 years, right here, 26 and 27, we're designing a curriculum that is compacted and faster now, but it's going to have to roll up with the students as they go, because students will get missed who haven't had certain standards. So it's going to be a multi-year process, and it's all new to staff going through this kind of process. So it's a change management project like no other. So we are doing that now, and we have excellent math leadership, and our teachers are lights out in terms of their math knowledge and in terms of their capacity to want to challenge students. So I feel really hopeful. Here's my worry. This is contingent on, if we say Algebra 1 for everybody, we better mean it. And that means the MTSS intervention support for kids who are struggling early and often, and summer programming. If we don't get that funding, this isn't going to work, and we're going to have an inequitable system again, because Russian math mom and dad are going to be able to fix it and we won't. So I need the community's help to really put this program forward. If we really want this, we've got to really want it with our money as well. Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Nolin. You showed an impressive list of state mandates and offered that as an explanation for why the student population is going down while expenses are going up. But for decades in this state, we've had Proposition 2.5, known primarily as limiting tax increases, but there's something else in there which prohibits, as I believe, unfunded state mandates. So if the state says you have to hire an athletic trainer, you ought to pay for the athletic trainer. I believe that's what the law says.
But not in special ed. Yeah. Well, and how can I say to this kid or that kid, nope, you can't have this athletic experience because we can't afford that trainer. Like, I don't want to co-opt that kid's experience.
Hi. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question for you. Have you looked or discussed maybe some new creative funding sources? Some thoughts come to my mind. We have a couple of new schools going in. Why not have naming rights? There's some very wealthy people in the community. You know, maybe you give them the ability to name an auditorium for the next 20 years in their name or the name of a family member. I think that this is a creative thinking out of the box approach. And the other thing is, there's a lot of nonprofit and education institutions in the city. And I think the next mayor needs to have a serious discussion about them making a contribution in lieu of taxes that can help support the school system. Because I don't think you can be dependent upon overrides. I don't think overrides are sustainable. They're tough fights, and they don't always happen. Mm-hmm. You're more likely to get a debt exclusion through than you are an override. So I just think that one has to give some serious thought to maybe private fundraising, and thinking outside the box, and also the idea of selling naming rights. I really think the time has come to explore that option.
I'm with you, sir. I'm all about, like, let me recreate a school committee conversation for you. I'll play the superintendent. I think we should have naming rights on various things. We don't do that in Newton. Well, could we do it now? Well, that'll be a question for the next school committee. And then this year, we actually did try this summer to have a meeting to begin a development fund for the system, along with an alumni network. The question also from the school committee is, if you do that, we won't ever be able to get any sort of change in the tax override when we really need it. And I said, well, I think we have to do all the things. I think we have to. So just so you know, since June, I've raised about $3 million doing that. We were adopted by an outside company who paid for 2 years of our Renaissance Learning testing suite and training and all of that. And he said, sister, after that, you're on your own. So in 2 years, I've got to figure that out. But I'm absolutely in that vein.
Well, I think there's a few people here running for school committees, so I hope they really give that some serious thought, because I think we have to explore alternative funding sources. So yep. Thank you for listening.
You're welcome. Looks like right here, Stephen.
Hi, thank you. I have a fifth grader, I have a junior, and I have a child who just graduated from Newton And I have two questions for you that are a little bit in the weeds, but I've heard you speak in the past, I want to kind of get an update. One is a follow-up to the math question, the multi-leveled math classes. I mean, you have multi-level other classes also in the high schools, but the math classes in particular have been seen by parents and students as well, I think, as a
And the teachers.
Yeah, and the teachers,
Yeah.
I think that's right. And the understanding is that they don't teach the higher level. And probably because teachers can't. I mean, that would be my explanation anyway. It's too hard to try and teach two different groups simultaneously. So that's partly why parents have to bring in all the outside educational sources that they do. So I was wondering, you talked about for the younger years, I was wondering what the current plan is for the high schools in particular. And then just one other piece that I was just curious about, because I know it's been an issue for a lot of parents in the past, and we've talked about it in the past, is chronic absenteeism of teachers in the high schools. I remember it was like at 13% or something on a given day, I think is what you said last year. I was wondering if you're making any progress on that front.
So this is a rough draft of the math pathways. Don't go blind trying to see it, but the bottom line is there will be accelerated pathways, honors pathways, and AP pathways, as there has been in the past. The one thing we need more time on is those kids. For example, a kid just moved here from Iowa. He's already finished pre-calculus. He's going into 9th grade. So we do have some one-off situations and some small situations that we haven't yet accounted for. So I just want to say that there's a handful of young people who need something much greater than we currently offer anywhere right now, working on it. But what I can tell you is that in a system where some students finish algebra, right? We're going to hope every student can get through algebra, but now this is not an earth-shattering idea. Most of Metro West does this. I'll use my own children as an example. I had one, I could have locked him in a closet, he'd have been an accelerated math student. My daughter that wasn't her story. She had to take algebra in 8th grade, and she took it in 9th grade because her skills were just not at mastery level. We will have that same situation here. So we will have an accelerated and a standard version of algebra, and that would be 2 pathways. And then if students repeat algebra here, that will be 3 pathways, and then you will have some sort of standard course and honors course at high school, and then there will be something for students who are already demonstrating the benchmarks for certain courses to test out of those courses. The question, I just want to caution everyone, this is high school. We cannot complete all of college in high school. We simply cannot do that. So what we're looking at now, for example, last week I had a meeting with the Boston Drone School and a robotics company. We are looking to create the kind of electives that when a student gets through IM3 or pre-calc or calculus, what else is there for them that is a robust, rigorous math applications experience? When I did this in Natick High School, we partnered with Cognex and MathWorks, and we created a drone and aeronautics course that would allow students to apply math to cutting-edge careers. That's what we're after. It requires public partnerships and private partnerships, and we just need time to get that done. And I got to tell you, in the budget cut scenario we are in, I never feel like I can get to that. We can't even plan to count on the course. But that's where we're heading.
And are the mixed level classes going to continue?
They will continue until we can roll this up through that's this document right here, so that you know when everything gets done for what grade level.
Questions? Comments? Yes, sir.
So, I thought your vision was great. What specific actionable items can residents take to support that vision?
Well, I think your election is a good first start, and you need to say to those elected officials what you want. I need help speaking to the largest voting bloc in Newton, which is senior citizens. I owe them a conversation about how we're using their tax dollars, and I want their trust and confidence too. Because if we do need to make changes in whether debt exclusion or tax overrides, they are something that most of Metro West is contending with, because that Proposition 2.5 thing is chafing everywhere, right? There's problems with every district, and we just are a larger and more complex district than most. So I'll just give you an example. It took 10 years for us to pass an override in Natick. It just passed this year. That's my override. Like, we worked on that for 10 years because we talked to every resident. And I need help getting to those folks who may not have penetration in the schools, because we may learn new things about what is feasible and not feasible within the schools. And if the things I'm saying are not feasible, I need to hear it from more residents. So I need help with that from the average person. I did suggest last year that if you were willing to host something for seniors in your neighborhood, I would come, just like I did on my first year. I did some barbecue tours. I will do that again. So those are the things I'm really struggling with. If you have those connections for private partnerships that you think could tee us up, I will take that meeting. I will go and we will share what we're doing. And I'm super creative about the ways that we can partner with groups. So we are looking for that. And if you are an alumni, please start to come to our alumni events so that we can start to have a relationship with you and you can start to talk to us about next steps.
Hi, thanks for this wonderful presentation. I'm also a parent with my kids also in the Newton Public School. So I wonder, obviously it would be great to always get the requested budget, right? But in reality, probably will be just kind of difficult to do. So I wonder, as the Newton Public School and you especially start to prepare or think that what is on the table to cut if you are not getting your requested full budget?
Well, what will not happen is the math program that I just said to you. We won't be able to do it. We are in process for a grades 6 through 12 English language arts and writing program review. We won't be able to execute that. And then, unfortunately, things that are not mandatory are what get on the block next, and no one's going to want to say this. I was a theater teacher. The arts programming, that's not required by state law. Those types of extra, I don't see them as extra, but if it's something we can't fund, we'll have to go to those levels.
So at the same time, I guess also kind of a related question is that obviously we're all in this post-COVID time, and then probably with this large budget that we already have, one thing is considering that how to be more efficient and effective with this large budget that we already have, right? So I wonder, as a school district and also you thinking, with this system, what can be done to really become a lot more efficient?
Yeah, I don't know if you were here when we talked about this, but I was challenged by the current mayor to cut $5 million of expenses before the budget season last year, and I did that. So these are some pieces that we have put into place around rescheduling and modernizing our elementary school with savings. So we were able, with those few elementary schools, to deploy better services for less money. We cut $2.2 million out of administrative staffing. And we eliminated duplicative spending. We raised our fees to families, and we obtained additional grant funding. So we are cranking in that area, and we're trying to reduce our general overhead. But what I also explained is that we have a teaching staff that's been here over 25 years, 49% of them. So which is an asset. That is such a great thing to have. But it does mean that our overhead for personnel and salaries is quite high.
Thank you, Dr. Nolin, for a very insightful presentation. And I just happened to be in this meeting. So my question is, I wish there were 200 people in this room. How can you have a voice, or will you be presenting this to others?
So twice a budget season, I always have, as long as I've been a superintendent, run community budget meetings, and I know many of you from coming to those budget meetings. So that will happen in February and March this year. I will have those meetings. So stay tuned. Oh, I'll get it, Stephen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nolin. That was fantastic. I have a question. During COVID, we adjust school schedules because largely, I think, due to the fact that science is telling us that our high school kids need more sleep. And believe me, my kids love that. The question I have is that most of the sports and extracurriculars are now meeting at 6 and 7 a.m., which is defeating our purpose of more sleep. And then, or they're meeting in the afternoon, and frequently the kids are missing two out of the 3 days of their core classes. I totally understand the schedule is wildly complex, but I'm wondering, is there any low-hanging fruit adjustments we can make to improve that situation?
I'll wrap that also into the staff attendance, which I don't think I answered for you, so or whoever asked that. So the schedule is, in my opinion, worth taking a look at. I mean, it is the schedule that everybody really wants when they look at the sleep science, right? So Newton did the cutting edge thing. The problem is that these residual collateral damage, I'll call it, is really big. So one, athletic buses have to be running to away games that take kids out of classes. I'm your person who's looking at time on learning. That to miss 1/3 of the classes a week in a school to play sports seems silly to me. And if you're a struggling student, it's critical that you have that instruction. So I'll put that here. Second, the bus shortage and the referee shortage for athletics at that time of day is really a problem. So I was the Newton Natick superintendent while we would wait for Newton to arrive to all our games, which means that all the rest of the region is waiting around for 50 minutes while we travel to wherever we are, right? So it creates busing problems for the entire Metro West region. Third, what I've learned from talking to teachers, and we did make some adjustments this year that should help with teacher absences. Before this year, teachers, when they would go into their absentee portal, they could only take a full day or a half day if they had to do something. Now, if you're a working parent, I'll just say, at the high school starts at 9, some of your meetings start at 7:45. When are you and it ends at 4. If you live an hour away from Newton like I do, how are you getting your children and any of your own appointments like medical and all that done? You can't. So you take a day. That's what would happen before. Now we've shaved that to like quarter days, but it is a conflict, right? So then the teachers, it's not their fault. They have to also live and take care of their people. So we've certainly been looking at like abuse problems and all that, and we'll deal with any of those issues. But that is definitely an issue, right? The schedule itself means that students meet every other day. So if, let's say, a teacher is out Monday through Wednesday with sickness, they only have 1 class a week with that teacher. So it is the schedule itself means the teacher has fewer at-bats with the student in a given week, which does contribute to learning loss. So I think we have to ask ourselves some questions as a community. Was the sleep science worth the residual impacts? I do think we should ask that question.
Other questions? Hold on, Jay.
So quickly, I'm sure you clarified this earlier, but I just wanted to know if the budgets include the infrastructure improvements, building, construction, and so forth.
The base operating budget for the schools do not. Capital and charter maintenance, so maintenance type activities. In schools and municipal funding, it's usually the city takes care of things like studs outwards and systems like HVAC and roof, and schools take studs inward, so anything that's inside the school. But for the last several years, that charter maintenance has been cut from our budget by the use of, and we've been given free cash instead, so we've slowly degraded our capacity to do that over time. So it's woefully underfunded. But building projects, that kind of thing, is a separate citywide. Outside, yes. That's correct.
I think this conversation could go on for hours.
It could. Thank you all. I really appreciate the day.
And thank you, Superintendent. And I completely agree with the comment earlier. If there are any of you who would like to hold meetings and ask the superintendent to come, I'd be more than happy to help you organize that and encourage people to come in your neighborhoods, in your blocks, on your streets.
I
whatever it is.
just ask that it's like 25 people. It's hard to come for one or two and still do all my day job stuff.
So, if I could be assistant.
I have a question. How are you using social media to help to spread your word? Because everybody in this room should be spreading the word to help you with his social media, just like our president does. Okay, he puts everything out on social media, whether it's true or not. This is true. And how are you going to use that to your benefit?
Well, we do have a communications department, and we do actually use our Parent Square newsletters and all of these pieces.
You need to get to the
I hear ya.
senior citizens. My mother's 86.
Yeah.
None of her friends want to see any tax increase. They don't understand the fact that it's the schools that are going to bring the people there to buy their house.
Right. But is she riding social media? I mean, my 83-year-old mother's not.
No. But social media is kind of a dangerous thing. You tell one person, they tell another, and it becomes a conversation, and it will trickle down, hopefully. But the senior citizens need to understand the concept, and they only understand the moment. The moment is my taxes going up, and that's a disaster. And they're not taking it with them. And they should really understand the principle that it's a charity. It's a charity. The schools were there when they needed them, and they were raising their kids, and they need to support the next generation, so when they go to school, that they have something. Sorry.
It's all right. You seem well situated to help me with this problem. So
There you go.
glad we met each other. Thank you, Stephen. Have a good day, everybody.